Hello, our guest here today for the Pocket Talks is Christian De Vito. Christian is a research associate at the University of Leicester and honorary fellow at the International Institute of Social History in Amsterdam. His current work addresses convicted labor and convicted circulation in late colonial and post-colonial Latin America. And Christian accepted our invitation here to present his most recent work entitled Micro-spatial History Towards a New Global History that fits in this discussion on what is global history. And if I may, Christian, I have two questions that I'd like you to address so we can try to understand better what is global history. And the first one is, in a time many historians are advocating global history as the history of macro process or even globalization. You are working with the perspective according to which there is no clear cut between the global and the local, but that every historical event has the same complexity. There is a risk there that is not to mind the gap between the portion of reality that is being intensively studied and the never to be reached totality of social relations. So here's my question. Can micro-spatial history avoid historians to being able to only know a tiny fragment of the story, and how?
I think it can. And the reason is this, it's really in the nature of micro-spatial history, because it's micro and it's spatial at the same time. So what the proposal there is to bring together the specificity of each place and each connection with the fact that each place is connected to the other one. So in this way, this is really the way, I think, to overcome this risk, this real risk, which we can otherwise face, because basically, if we take an historical phenomenon, in this through this perspective, we have to look at how it impacts every single place, but at the same time, how this impact is part of a more general connection of, and therefore a more general historical phenomenon. So in this way, we deconstruct the idea of this planetary phenomenon, but at the same time we reconstruct that from below, from the connections, the specific connections between individual places. And that's why the concept of translocality is so relevant to this project, because it connects specific places and not just macro regions, but also it avoids the risk of taking each place as isolated. So definitely no fragments, but also no planets only, but something in between, which is the dialectics of history, if you want.
Okay, thank you. I was also trying to bring a little bit the discussion to the Brazilian historiographical reality, because here Brazilian historiography, since the emergence of Marxism or the debates on development in the 50s, in the 60s, has a strong tradition of identifying an historical north-south polarization concerning political and economic relations and international relations. So can microspatial history also identify an equal distribution of power at that scale?
This is actually a key point why I tried to develop this microspatial history, because I think in global history generally there is the tendency to look at connections as if they were lines. And as if every connection is an exchange, a sort of exchange between institutions or regions which are at the same place in an ideal hierarchy. We all know that it's not like this now, and it was not like that in history. And the fact that we can take, with microspatial history, we can take into account the difference between places, but still the connection, it makes possible to look also at the different place that each side had in this hierarchy. But I want to say also one thing, because you mentioned the north-south divide. This microspatial history also brings us to the idea that maybe we have to question the idea of north-south as such a divide, because many historical processes, and many processes even now, do not only stem from the north or the south. They do stem from a sort of connection of agents located in the north and in the south. For instance, in the global south, there are many important and relevant elites which have lots of connections with elites in the north. And at the same time, in the global north, of course, there are lots of people which are subaltern in terms of social, ethnic, or cultural situations. So this brings us to one of the key points of microspatial history, which is to break this kind of preconstructed divide. It recognized that the global north and the global south are uneven, are in an uneven position, but who are actually the actors who are in this uneven position in the north and in the south? So we can further go also like that, also in smaller sites. Who has the power for decision in certain site, who has not, both in the global north and in the global south. So unevenness is there, definitely, and also it is there that connections are not just exchanges. Connections can be through conflict, through resistance, so through the results of unevenness.
Okay, thank you very much, Christian. Thank you.
Thank you.